Let's talk about web design cycles and how user being considered as centers while we design a website or application. So during the web design procedure, so we first need to find what the needs are, who is going to be the audience, and what task the audience will do on the application or website. And then we're going to start design. So while we're doing this user analysis part, task analysis part, we're going to interview the client or the focus group, whatever group of the people who give the task. And then collecting all the information we can to figure out what's really the task, what kind of scenarios people will use the application and what they're trying to accomplish on the site. And then we go give design. Well, for the design, then we have to put it back to the user and the client, say, test it out. And then we give the prototype and test it out with the user. And each time we're collecting the feedback until we develop the real site or real application. We're still going to ask the feedback from the user. So every time we get them involved each step, then the feedback we collected and making according change, and the last time we'll have to put in later development change. So this is pretty much what I just talked about. Even the testing part, you have to have the internal testing. Basically, we define the task from the beginning of the project, and then with the project going, the task may change, shifting a little bit. Then we have to accordingly changing that for our project. So now today's application design is more dynamic than 10 years ago. So special goals and the specification figure out. We need to ask what kind of organization it is, what is the objective, and how does creating a website or app to support the mission of the organization. So sometimes when you talk to the client, when you ask them, do you want an app or you want a website, and they even don't know. So we have to working with them to help them to figure out and present what functions the website provide and what the functions app will adding to the organization and functions. What are the most important goals? What are you trying to get? Are you trying to get more sales with the store, or are you trying to just giving information to the customer? So who is your audience? What do you want the audience to think or to accomplish? All of those are good questions to start with when we interview the client. So we can ask them, what do you use to measure the success of the site? How many people visit or how many people buy, and how that can translate to a sales most of the time, or to a class registration. So after the site being delivered, who is going to maintain it, and how the deliver platform, what the deliver platform, if they have a host in Linux server, then we have to, when we're coding it, we have to pay attention to that if it is on the different operating systems. So all of those technical concerns need to be there. What the technical and function requirements are needed may not really be question to ask them, but special functions they might know but as a designer and development team, we may have to help them to make a choice or make a decision on what kind of function they need. They probably want to know to probably can give you the feature they're looking for. You can ask them to provide specific reference to a site they visit before having some functions, and then go from there to figure out what we need to do. And so as far as the project management, we need to know what the timeline, how long we have, what the budget looks like, and also who is the contact person of the team. Like the first time having first, the interviewer, and then who is the contact person next time we need to have your users to testing the prototype. So all of those need to be settled in the kickoff meeting. So the general information about the design, I would say having two parts. One is the site structure, information architect, hierarchy, and the other one is the page level design. So let's first talk about when you started with a project, you had to think about, is this e-commerce just trying to sell something? Later on, we're going to introduce about our coming project. This is selling teas in this online. So is that entertainment store website or academic discussion board or nonprofit, etc. So we need to clear if it's education. We may have to have a sequential for tutorials. So it really depends. And as far as the information hierarchy, we first we collect a lot of information from the interview and needs finding process, and that could be interview could be twice or more time, more different groups. So all the information we collected, we have to make it like a recording of what kind of keyword are mentioned, and then we're going to draw a logic structures to trunk the information into different group. Basically, we're trying to build the structure according to the site set logic, set structures. So this step is very important because that's related to later, and people can find information in the logic way. So after we get this hierarchy done, then we have to go back to get it reviewed by the user. So yes, the one of the most important things is you have to know what your user experience, what your user expectation is. Sometimes when you talk to the client may not be the final user, so they may not know different scenarios, what the user experience. So that's why it's kind of very important to have a user testing involved before we in each steps when we're doing prototype and design and deliver the product. So as I said, the logic of the site will allow the user to be able to predict what the next step would be to find things. And a consistent layout is going to permit the user to extend the knowledge for familiar site to those unfamiliar sites. So for example, if you're putting the image on the left, align them, and it's probably a good idea to put those images on the same spot. So this is a diagram of showing the relationship between among different pages of your site. What that means is if you have a site like this, the user are very confusing from the first page to the second page where the connection is. And then you're probably not in a good spot. So the structure needs to be more clear. There is a different type of structure for different type of objective of the organization. So for example, like a simple sequential site, if you have error, go to the W3 schools, then you will see that's a sequential linear narrative website. So you basically you learn one topic, HTML, or then you go to a page, start, and then go next until you finish. So that's a linear or sequential structure. And then for some of the website, like education, higher education, the website could be more complicated like this. Their finance, their registers, their advising academic programs, administrations, the register probably here. So the structure is more complicated than in between of those complicated and sequential, there is a most common user structure, like not shallow, not deep, but it's kind of having the easy structures. You have home page and then about the organization, then contact us, something like that, and what kind of product or service you have. Then you have a child breakdown, or even a small daycare center or a tutorial camp service, and then you get different classes, and then about us, contact us, something like that. So this is one of the examples of a company. So this is a, an about company, and then the introductions, activities, events, resource. So each of the categories having related to forthcoming events, have forthcoming events and membership and seminars, conference. So, and then home and set structures. And this ETI library is going to be a separating kind of subsite, and only the member can access those. You have to get a login page. So basically, from here, login page, then you go inside here. So the structure relationship will be like this. And for page design, basically what very important things is you need to make sure front end, fonts, color, and the background having enough contrast to show the clarities. And there's one very important rule is consistency. So consistency applied to the layout of the site throughout the site, on each page, and also apply to the typographics, like what kind of fonts you use. Don't try to use a lot of different fonts and making people confuse the content with one font and menu and maybe header with 3 different fonts, footer, but don't use a lot. Sans serif always better fonts rather than serif families, and the order reflect the structures. And trustness is like if you going to create a website for a bank, you probably don't want to use those coins or money bags, which is more looks like casino rather than the bank. So nowadays, one way with the website, we're really not reading first. We're scanning. So the contrast is very important. We're doing this. Like if you have a not clear structure, then you're not in the good shape. So this is scanning process.